Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thanks a lot, Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh, and we're taking your phone calls tonight. 412-575-2600 is the number. You can always reach me at Richie Walsh on Twitter. Paul Zeise will be joining me in just a matter of moments, and we're going to be talking about Pitt Hoops have a huge game against Syracuse up in the Dome on Saturday. Also, Steelers, Antonio Brown, that's a topic for conversation tonight. Hasn't done much today. No Antonio Brown drama today. But Bob Pompiani had a chance to talk to Art Rooney II yesterday, and we have more of that interview coming up on KDKA-TV tonight at 11 o'clock, and he addresses the whole Chris Boswell situation. And you would think Chris Boswell would be at the top of the list any other year, but this year, Chris Boswell is probably 5, 6, 7, 8 down there with all the problems the Steelers are having. I still think, and I know Paul wrote about this in the Post-Gazette, I still think the Steelers are in somewhat good shape. And, you know, it's not even if they do trade Antonio Brown, it's not doomsday situation that's going on over there. But they do have a lot of issues to iron out, and they have to get these things ironed out by, you know, in the next couple months. I would imagine they're going to try to work out some deals, at the NFL Combine at the end of February. We'll be there. We'll have a chance to talk to Kevin Colbert and maybe have a deal in place, I would imagine, by, you know, the NFL first day. And there's that first NFL day, I think, is the 13th, Paul. And then they have 5 days before they have to pay Antonio Brown that $2.5 million signing bonus or roster bonus. And if they're going to trade him, that's when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously probably they've got stuff, or they're going to get stuff in the works. I have no reason to doubt Art Rooney, but I have a hard time believing that they haven't had some discussions about trading him or whatever like that. You know, to me, they have to trade him. But I just think it's reached the point of no return where it's going to be really difficult to bring him back into that locker room. You know, I guess it's possible, but again, how do you trust him? So if you trade him, let's say you get a first-round pick for him. You're going to get a third-round pick for Le'Veon Bell, right?
But that's not until what, next year?
Is it next year?
Yeah, 2020.
Is it next year or is it this year?
I think they would get that third-round pick next year.
I thought it was this year.
Okay, well, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to look that up. I'm not
but
sure.
Still, what I'm saying is you're getting a first and a third for those two guys, basically. It's amazing if you think about it that they're giving away those two guys, and that's probably what they're going to get back.
Yeah.
It feels like they should get more given the talent of those guys, but it's hard to trade in the NFL sometimes. And you know what? I look at it like this. If you sign a receiver of some degree of competence to be on the other side from Juju Smith-Schuster, I think you have a chance where your offense will still be okay.
Yeah, I looked at the list. There's not much out there, I think, as in receiver. I looked at the top 50 guys that are available for next year. I think Golden Tate might be the top-ranked receiver that's a free agent. You're going to have to draft someone. You're going to have to draft someone high. And you know what? Here's my thing, Paul. They haven't won a Super Bowl with either one of these guys. And I thought what you wrote and the point that you've made is that, you know, the 10 years before Ben Roethlisberger are arguably better than the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 10 years before Ben Roethlisberger became the starter, you know, with guys like Maddox and Graham and Cordell and, you know, that whole group.
Yeah.
The Steelers won 6 division titles. Got to the AFC title game 3 times and the Super Bowl once. These last 10 years, they've only won 4 division titles. They've only gotten to 2 AFC title games, and they got to 1 Super Bowl. So it is a better period, those 10. And that's not a rip on Ben or, you know, criticizing Ben. It's to say that these last 10 years have been somewhat underwhelming.
And teams like the New England Patriots, you look at a team like that. I mean, maybe that's a bad example to compare the two, but, you know, they've won without stars. They don't have Antonio Browns on their team. They don't have Le'Veon Bells on their team. They're winning with Danny Woodheads and the one I can't even think of some of the reasons. Julian Edelman. Hogan is the guy from Penn State.
They got didn't they have Danny,
a running back by committee, James White. They had
Danny Amendola was a part of their group, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah,
at that point?
and this is a team. The Steelers could do that. I think when you have a good quarterback and you have a guy like Ben Roethlisberger that knows this offense, I think they'll be just fine. Even if it is a first and a third that they get and they pick up a free agent, I think what they really need to do is maybe address some of the problems on defense. And if they get a high first-round draft pick, maybe that should be a cornerback or an inside linebacker, a playmaker on defense, because they have one of those guys right now, maybe two with Watt and Hayden. But outside of that, how many playmakers?
Yeah, they need a playmaker. Definitely need a playmaker on defense. But don't you think, too, that it troubles me that that Art Rooney doesn't feel the game management part of the coaching is that big of a deal. And the reason I say that is because he said flat out, we're not going to hire somebody specifically to be the analytics guy, the replay guy.
The challenge guy, the timeout.
We're not going to do that. That's something we can just delegate to somebody that's already on the staff. To me, I mean, that smells like an organization stuck in a different time and place, and willing to say, well, we're going to do things the way we've always done them. People rip the Pirates a lot, right?
Yeah.
But one thing you cannot say about the Pirates is that they aren't on the cutting edge of the revolution in baseball. Whatever it is, with the shifting, with the analytics, with the food, the rest programs, all the other stuff, the way they handle pitching staffs, the way they evaluate players, all that stuff. They've been and really that's given them the ability in some ways to compete probably a little bit more than they should if they were still doing things the old way. To me, the Steelers need to come into modern day sports. Teams have that guy on their staff now. The Penguins probably, maybe they don't win one of their 2 Stanley Cups. Maybe both of them, actually, if they don't have that guy on their staff and he doesn't overturn
the replay guy,
right, if he doesn't
right
overturn two important goals. I'm just saying that's what troubles me. That is something that most teams have.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do that. You don't feel that you need that. That tells me you're stuck in a different time and place.
Yeah, Tomlin hasn't won a challenge in a long time. What is he, 0 for the last 12, I think?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think he's lost 12 out of his last 13.
And but that's not good. That has to be addressed at some point.
Right.
All right, we got to take a break. Back with some phone calls and maybe some tweets coming up next. Give us a call on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in 2 minutes.
The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, Pittsburgh's #1 home exterior expert in roofing, siding, windows, and gutters.